I'm sorry for bringing up a math equation already at the beginning of my talk. I know many of you want to probably link math to class or even less than that. But I wanted to ask you a question. Does this fraction, 5/10, look right? Many of you are probably wondering, what do I actually mean by that? But let me explain. 5/10 is the same as 1/2, but it's easier to imagine half when you see the second expression. That happens because in many aspects, our minds understand simplicity better. However, in everyday life, we lost simplicity. We want to possess more and more, and we no longer care about stuff we buy. To show that, let me tell you a story. A story about stuff, and a story about each one of us. 6 months ago, in May, we all bought a decent number of things. We did not care much what we were putting into our baskets. Looks good, let's take it. That's the mindset of many people in the Western society. According to statistics, the average person would now only have 1% of the things they bought back then, in May. That means that we only value 1% of the things we buy enough to keep for more than half a year. Nowadays, we do not look at things as objects serving a purpose. We buy just for a pleasure of possessing something new. Being bored with an item is enough of a reason to buy a newer version of it, while the old one still works. The trick is that it's not only about how much and what we possess. It's also about how we live. We take on too much obligations, overwhelming our brains with activities, deadlines, and responsibilities makes us more stressed. We feel lost, and we think it's impossible to break that cycle. We feel pressured by imaginary expectations because we do not want to disappoint our family and friends, but in the end we do not have time for them. Be there for people, not for things. Today in the United States we can observe the same life cycle in many houses. People go to work, afterwards they go shopping for unnecessary goods, and then they go home to rest, entertaining themselves with TV, computer, or their phones. But where is the place for happiness? Studies shows that when your financial situation lets you meet your basic needs, additional income won't make you happier. But on the other hand, there is a visible connection between time spent with other people and being happy. So why do we waste so much of our precious time on consumption? And why is it so hard to break from that cycle? So first of all, we are constantly surrounded by advertisement. Whatever we do, we see it. Scrolling through our phones, watching TV, reading a newspaper, or even walking down a sidewalk, we see ads. And it's really hard to not want something when it's new, updated, and has the potential power to change our lives. But let's try to be more realistic. Things do not have magical powers. Second of all, there is a huge social pressure. We follow the reasoning, if everyone has it, I'm also supposed to buy it. But what about people being different from each other? Usually, we advocate that we should not compare ourselves because we are unique. We should also apply this to a consumption, so we do not feel obligated to buy something just because someone else has it. Third of all, our habits know how to trick us. We are so used to owning the newest version of a product, one with more options and functions. And although it might seem helpful, in the end, we will be more overwhelmed than it will actually improve our lives. But there's nothing to worry about though. There are many people who have already proved that it's possible to break that cycle. I would like to start with my story. I'm standing here in front of you, and I think I really freed myself from being constantly overwhelmed with material possessions to the stage where I enjoy my personal space. 1.5 years ago, almost at the end of my secondary school, I started to feel extremely stressed. I had final exams and lots of assignments, or at least it felt like this back then. I had no idea how life in high school would be. Nearing the end of the year, my classmates and I wanted to spend as much time together as possible. And I bet everyone here can imagine how big of a conflict socializing and studying for exams are. And on top of that, I did not feel comfortable in my room. I didn't have this safe space I could always go to. Honestly, I didn't know what to do. I had a constant battle in my head about choices I was making. I started to feel really stressed. I felt small, but then miracle happened. I started to search for a way to decrease my stress, and I came upon a concept of minimalism. I was scrolling through YouTube videos and I found this Swedish couple that talked about this, and it convinced me because it was simple. Because you do not need anything extra to simplify your life. You just need to focus on things that bring you happiness. So I started to go through all of my stuff, and then I realized that I do not use majority of the things in my room, that they only pile up somewhere on my bookshelf or in my closet. So I decided to divide everything into 3 piles. 1, things that I love, want and use. 2, things that I do not love, do not want and do not use. And 3, things that I might love, might use and might want to keep. I saved all of the things from the first pile, and I got everything that was in the second group. I sold some of them, but majority I just gave to the people in need, which made me feel much happier than when I had them. I packed all of the things that were in the third group into a box, and I marked a date on top of that. I put the box under my bed and I waited for 3 months. The rule was really simple. If I needed anything from the box, I could just take it out and put it back where it had been. But what surprised me the most was that during those 3 months, I did not hunt for anything that was in the box. So after those 3 months, I also got rid of the last group. And this is how my room back home looks like right now. I repeated the process several times, so that in the end I only have things that I truly loved, I truly wanted, and that I truly used. Getting rid of possessions made me feel so much free. Right now I feel much more free when I do not have tons of objects piling around me. I have more free space in my mind so that I can think about that which I value the most. If you really struggle because you think that you really need to have something, think about this one simple rule. An item's function should be more important than the want to possess it. When you are buying something, ask yourself the simple question: do I really need it? Objects are supposed to serve as a purpose. Would you buy a special knife for tomatoes because they put it on sale and it looks nice? If you would really hated tomatoes? Probably not. Why then do you buy another pair of jeans if you have at least 6 other pairs in your wardrobe? An additional pair won't serve you any additional purpose, and it will only make you responsible for more things. There are many people who can fit all of their material possessions into a small suitcase. They limit themselves to a specific number of things, but that is not the only way you can live while being a conscious consumer. Because it's not about a particular number, it's about what you get from things you have. Does it make you happy? Or is it just another thing that only clutters your mind? If you start counting your possession, Try to imagine how much stress would that add to your life. And that is not what conscious consumerism is about. Its aim is to limit stress in your life as much as possible. Just choose things wisely and pay more attention to what you surround yourself with. At this point, you're probably thinking, why would I want to get rid of things that I worked for? Why would I want to get rid of things that I'm used to? And why would I want to get rid of things that make me happy? But do they really make you happy? Don't think about minimalism as losing something, but rather as enriching your life. Because by simplifying, your goal is not to get rid of possessions. Your goal is to have more time for what you enjoy. Think about it as an opportunity to have more time for what is important. For people, for passions, for reading books you always wanted to read, and for going to places you always wanted to visit. There are many ways how you can start your journey with minimalism. First one, get rid of one item each day. Second, go through all of your stuff, and whenever you see something that might be unnecessary, ask yourself if you used it in past 6 months, and if you will use it in the next 6 months. 3, think about the goal. You can save time and money by selling unneeded items and limiting future purchases, providing opportunities for that which you value the most. For example, traveling. 4, look for inspiration. There are many books and articles about minimalism, and they often have many useful tips on how to make a transition easier. There's also a really good movie on Netflix called The Minimalist, which perfectly shows why simplifying is enriching. And lastly, look at your surroundings. They're your biggest motivation. Look at people around you and try to find more time for them. Lastly, my journey with minimalism started by a real coincidence. I found this YouTube video made by a Swedish couple, Jenny and David Mustard, and I actually wrote to them a few weeks ago and asked them if they would like to say something to you. And their words were, Monday morning is when all the possibilities are possible. Thank you.